Call to order the Santa Barbara. And we do not have anyone in the audience to make public comments, so we'll go right to the first item on the agenda. Mr. Samario.
Thank you, committee members. My name is Bob Samario. I'm the finance director, and I have Jennifer Tomaszewski. She is our accounting manager. I don't think she was planning that I would ask her to sit down here, but in case we get into some details, I wanted her here. So this is going to be informal. We have no PowerPoint. We're just going to have a conversation about our audit contract. You've met the partner, Mr. Rich Kikuchi. He's been on the engagement since the inception. We've had them for 7 years now. We initially started with a 5-year contract, 3 with 2-year option, which we did extend, and then we extended 2 more years. And we're here to ask or discuss the idea of extending that for 2 more years. So I wanted to start with giving you a little bit of, my perspective on what the purpose of auditors, what is their value, what's their purpose, and all that, and what do they do and what don't they do, just to give some context to this request. The city charter requires that we have an annual audit by an independent CPA, certified public accountant. State law also requires that. And then just if we're going to issue bonds, we have to have an audited financial statements for them to be able to rely on some financial information about us. So every year they come out and audit our books. They mostly look at what we give them in terms of our preliminary financial report, and they do test to make sure that the numbers are reasonably correct. Not that they're 100% accurate, but that they're not materially misstating our financial position or how we ended the year. They do, as part of that, they do a test and a review of our internal control systems, so all of our accounting procedures, our policies, how we handle transactions. They do that primarily to determine how much actual audit work, substantive work they do. So it's the process of assessing risk. If they see that we have very few internal controls in place, they're going to do a lot more work in the field. If they see that we have good internal control systems and a good sort of internal control environment, which really starts with the council and our city administrator and myself, is the environment sort of one that people are aware of of the internal controls, how important they are, and that we want to do the right thing, then their work can be diminished and they do a lot less substantive work because they feel like the internal control systems are there to help them. So the second benefit of that review is they identify periodically things that need to be improved upon. So every once in a while they'll find something that says, you might want to change this procedure or tighten up this procedure. They're more housekeeping kinds of things. They've never, since they've been here and never since I've been here for 20 years, has any auditor ever indicated that we have a material weakness in our systems where we have a problem with that we could either be losing money or the financial statements could be misrepresented or misstated. It's always the cleanup stuff. So in terms of their role is to really give an opinion on the financial statements, and secondarily really is to kind of give us a sense of how are we doing from an internal control perspective. So I have no illusions that the auditors are there to protect us to protect us from any loss, such as we've had in the past and other agencies have had in the past. That's not their role. So you look at the city of Bell, who had a lot of crazy things going on, and you would assume that the auditors would have seen some of those and found some of those. I could see the circumstances where they wouldn't, but there is this perception that they should have definitely found those things, seen those things, reported those things, and it's just not the nature of what an auditor does. So kind of with that context, I wanted just to share with you that, we would like to extend the contract for 2 more years for a number of reasons. One is, I don't want to put this as number one, this is not in order, but it is a major change to go through new auditors because we're having to sort of retrain a lot of folks, and there's a lot of work for us. And we've just come through a difficult period, and it'll continue as a result of the Thomas Fire and the debris flow, where we're now having to make claims ourselves and work with as part of this disaster recovery effort to make claims with FEMA and Cal OES. So our staff who would be doing the RFP are impacted by that. LSL has been a good firm to work with. They're very competent. They're one of the top in their area, their field, and in the state. And so I know they have provided us really good service over the years. I don't feel that there's a risk by extending their contract 2 more years that we're going to lose. What's the that the integrity of an audit, sometimes there's people feel like if you have an auditor for too long, they can become complacent and they get too familiar, and then you lose that sort of that independence. And I don't see that happening at all. In fact, we've had a number of changes to the people who they've assigned to our engagement, the manager, who's the key person, as well as we've had several changes in the accounting manager spot. Jennifer has been here for a few years. Before that, it was Julie, and before that, we had another person. So we've had a number of changes during their contract that we've seen, I think, enough fresh pair of eyes on what we do. So all that is to say, we think, while it's a little unusual to have a contract go this long, at least these days. In the past, we've had a firm for 20 years. I remember when I got here, we had P. Marwick for 20 years. These days, it's probably good to change 5-7 years or so. But given the sort of the overall other circumstances around this, I don't think it's unreasonable for us to extend 2 years and create any problems. So that's kind of our proposal.
Any questions for Mr. Samario? Councilmember Dominguez?
So did you say we've done a 5-year and then two years, or 1 2-year rollover?
Yeah, when we initially contracted with them, we always do sort of a 3-year with a 2-year option to extend, which we did. And then on top of that, we added 2 more years. So we are now done with that 7 years. So this for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2018, we will either be hiring LSL to do that audit or somebody else.
So I would my personal preference would be to go with someone new this year, but given the extenuating circumstances, I would suggest either I'd be open to funding something within your department that would make up for that gap in order to hire someone new, or I would recommend maybe a 1-year extension. How would that impact you if there was a 1-year extension versus a 2-year?
Committee Member Dominguez, what it would mean is that we would we propose a 2-year extension, and we would just add a 1-year extension. We'd have to come back to council in either case to get the contract in approval. Our budget already provides for an audit every year, so it's not a budgetary impact. It just means that next year, this time, we would be doing an RFP to hire a new firm.
Thank you.
Councilmember Friedman?
Actually, to follow up on Councilmember Dominguez's question, so if we just did for the 1 year, because I had the same concerns, and it would be 9 years total, if I'm correct, if we did the 2-year. But given the circumstances that we have on our staff and theirs, you kind of answer those questions on why you're recommending this. But if we did a year and you came back, the concern I would have is if we're still dealing with a lot of those FEMA and other issues related to the fire and the debris flow, there would be an option to extend it for another year if we wanted, or to go out with an RFP, correct?
That is correct.
So I'd be supportive of doing the 1 year, like Councilmember Dominguez is recommending.
Yeah, I think that's a good compromise, and it speaks to what you said at the beginning, which is the values and the point that we make about trying to do the right thing and trying to stick to a regular process that is transparent and clear, having that direction from the council that we'd like it to be as short as possible, but given the extenuating circumstances, we'd like to see a year. I think that's a great solution that compromises at both ends. So is there a motion from anybody?
I'd move to, and is this seeking a recommendation to the council?
Yes.
So I'd move to recommend to the full city council that we extend the current auditor by 1 year.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose and abstain. Matter carries, and we are adjourned.
Yeah, and just so real quick, so within the next few weeks, we will bring an item to council on consent that extends the contract for 1 year with this firm. Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.